So, have you ever wondered if you have a toxic team environment on your hands, like whether or not the things that are happening on your team is a sign of toxicity? Well, if you are wondering that, then I want you to know that this video is for you because today what I'm going to be doing is sharing 5 red flags of toxic behaviors on your team. So, if that sounds like something you're interested in learning more about, then definitely stick around and let's get started. Hey there, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new around here, well, my name is Mac and I'm a leadership coach, but I actually work specifically with first-time team managers and helping them to become effective leaders. So today, like I mentioned, I wanted to talk about toxic team behaviors because I know for me, a video like this would have been super helpful when I first started out because I could feel or I could sense that something was off on the team, but I couldn't really articulate what it was. And me not being able to clearly articulate what was going on made it really hard for me to charter a way forward. And so I thought that maybe by nailing down some of these red flags, and it might help you kind of say, oh, okay, this is exactly what I'm experiencing. This is the next step that I'm going to take. Okay, so let's dive into the content. So, in terms of the red flags, I would say red flag numero uno is gossip. Now, I know that a lot of people think that gossip is pretty harmless, but I don't see it that way. I really, really don't. It's not just something that old ladies do when they go to the salon. It is something that a lot of people are actively a part of, and it is absolutely cancerous to any team environment. It's cancerous in general, but to a team environment, it's absolutely detrimental. I mean, just think about it. If they are involved in this sort of mindless negative discussion about other people, then who's focusing on the work? Because I don't think very many people are focusing on the work if they're focusing on this thing that's going around or this negative talk that's happening on the team. The other thing too is it just ruins the reputation of not just the person that it's about, but it ruins the reputation of the person that is the carrier of that piece of gossip. So it's just a negative. I personally don't like it. I really do honestly believe that gossip is absolutely toxic to a team. Oh, yes, it's very important to acknowledge that we are human beings. And so because of that, we're going to talk about one another. That's a normal part of life. And trying to restrict people from talking about their team members makes no sense. And it's not even a healthy thing to do because genuine concern about other people and showing a personal interest in other people is fundamental when it comes to a strong team culture. So that's not at all what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is mindless, idle talk that is negative, that tears down, that is not truthful, and that ruins the reputation of the people that we're talking about. That's what I'm talking about. That is what you want to cut off at its head. Because guarantee you, if you don't, it's going to get worse and it's going to become a habit on your team. And man, once you've got a behavioral habit on a team, it is really hard to root out. And so you got to deal with it right away. Now, a couple of months ago, I did post a video, or I just briefly discussed gossip and what you can do, but I'm going to just really quickly recap it here for you today. So essentially, it's important when you're dealing with gossip on a team, it's important that you first lay out exactly what gossip sounds like, what people should do when they hear it. And you should set the expectation that gossip has no place on your team. Okay? And then once you've done that, once you've had that clearly outlined with people, then it's a matter of holding people accountable to what you've said is an expectation for the team. Okay? So I will link that video where I discuss gossip for you in the corner and of course in the description box below if you want to go a little bit deeper. But that's essentially in a nutshell what I discussed in that video. Okay, so now let's move on to red flag number 2, which is undermining. Now, I think it's one of the worst things when there's a group of people that have been brought together to create success, and all they're actually doing is undermining success by undermining each other. Now, yes, undermining behaviors, whether that be your team going around you, going maybe above your head or going around you, or maybe team members going around each other, is simply just a symptom. And undermining behaviors is usually a symptom of a lack of trust, right? Whether or not they lack trust in the manager or they lack trust in each other, undermining is usually at the core a matter of trust. So if that's something that you're seeing quite often on your team where people are undermining you, or undermining each other, then I want to encourage you to start actively and very intentionally right now. Start building some trust. Start building trust on that team. Now, I did a video on this at the beginning of the year, which I will link for you in the corner and in the description box below, where I walk you through a series of steps when it comes to building trust within a team. Okay, so red flag number 3 when it comes to toxic behaviors on a team is a team that operates from this space of, we've always done it this way. So I don't know about you, but for me, nothing grinds my gears more than a team that has this kind of one-track way or mindset of doing things, you know? Because what that tells me is they're more interested in operating out of habit than sense. Because you're going to tell me, like, you're actually going to look at me and tell me that even though there's a more effective and efficient way of doing what you're doing, you're going to continue to do it your way because you've always done it that way? I mean, I'm sorry, make it make sense, please. I'm calling this out as a toxic habit because, again, the whole point of a team is to ensure that there is forward movement, that things are getting done really well in the most efficient and effective way possible. And if team members are resistant to that, then that's an issue because they're not accomplishing the very goal of why they were formed. And so if you're noticing this same sort of resistance on your team to change, I want you to dig deep, figure out why that is, because the resistance is simply a symptom anyways. Figure out why that is, and then start to embed very practical strategies and just disciplines within your team that helps them see that they should be constantly moving forward. You want to make sure that everybody on the team understands that they want to be looking for better ways to do things and that is the behavior that's rewarded. That is the behavior that you want to see, not this one track, we've always done it this way type of mindset. Okay, so red flag number 4 when it comes to toxic behaviors on the team is lazy thinking. Now, I know that I have probably said what I'm about to say like 1,001 times on the channel before, but hey, repetition is the mother of learning, so I'm just going to repeat it again. So I know that in the past, I've mentioned to you that one of the things that my mentor has literally hammered into me is that at the end of the day, people are paid to solve problems. And so if team members are always relying on you to do their thinking for them in terms of the problems that they're getting paid to solve, then they're not actually doing the job that they're being paid to solve. You know what I mean? Right? Because they're always relying on you to solve it for them, or they're always at least relying on you to think it through for them, and you're having to jump in to save the day. That is just not good at all. It's not good at all. Now, yes, you as the manager are responsible for supporting your team members in solving these problems and achieving their goals, but you should not be doing the thinking for them. Okay? And I will say this, I'm going to put a fine point here. It's not necessarily completely the team's fault that they've fallen into this habit. Because a team that relies on their manager to solve their problems and to come up with solutions to every issue they have is simply a byproduct of a manager that jumps into action every single time their team has an issue. Okay? It's just a byproduct of that. And so if you are noticing that has formed on your team where people are constantly coming to you for every little thing all the time and they're not necessarily thinking through things before they come to you, then I want you to really think about what actions you've taken that has led them to what they're doing right now. Because they're only coming to you constantly because you've somehow created a scenario where they think that that's what they're supposed to do. So I really want you to think about what have your responses been and what have you been doing to enable this kind of lazy thinking that might exist on your team if it does. Okay, so red flag number 5 is if you have a lot of Debbie Downers or negative Nancys on your team. And so if you often hear sentences like, we can't, we shouldn't, there's no way, then I want you to know there's an issue. And I'm not talking about reasonable fears that people have when, something is happening or a change is happening, or when people raise to you reasonable facts that make a situation hard, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if every time you bring up something, the response you get is, oh man, that's going to be hard, or oh man, we can't. That's an issue. That is a red flag. And of course, like everything else I mentioned in this video, it's merely a symptom, right? It's merely a symptom of a lack of trust. It's a symptom of not having defined standards on the team. It's a symptom of improper change management, but it's still an issue nonetheless. Even though it's a symptom of something, it's still an issue. And it does hold a team back from being productive if it's not dealt with. Okay, so those are the 5 signs of, or 5 red flags, I should say, of, I guess it's the same thing. But yeah, anyways, those are the 5 red flags of toxic behaviors on a team. And so I hope that you found this video valuable and that you were able to kind of decipher like, hey, is this what's on my team, or, you know, what should I do? What should I do moving forward? Any of the thoughts, like the videos that I mentioned within this video, I'm going to link it in the description box below for you so that you can watch it after you watch this video. And hopefully it can be helpful to you, because I think some of the core components that I discussed today was around a lack of trust. That's really where it like ultimately stems from. So I definitely want you to watch that video if you haven't already. All right, my friends, that is pretty much it for me. I hope, like I said earlier, I hope you found this video enjoyable. And if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe so you don't miss out on any other content that I share here on this platform. All right, thanks so much for being here with me. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Do not forget to keep smiling, and I'll see you in the next one.